Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine Show, the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. My name is Mike Avery, and as always, I am so glad to have you along with us as we continue this celebration of the outdoor lifestyle, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, all things biologically sound, all things biologically necessary, all things legal, all things moral, all things ethical, even ordained by God. And just plain fun. Let's not forget that. Being outdoors is just plain fun. Now, if it's, if the wind chill is 30 below and you got 4 feet of snow, is that fun? Well, that's going to depend on the person. And by the way, welcome now to, it's officially wintertime. The good news of that is, for those who don't like winter, is the days are going to start getting longer. We have bottomed out on the shortness of days now, and we can look forward slowly and gradually to a little bit longer daylight. There is no doubt. I was thinking about that this morning. As I'm in the studio right now, it's a cold day, and there's a cold wind, and it feels like winter. But overall, there is no doubt that our winters are just not like they used to be when I was a kid growing up. Now, I don't know, the whole global warming thing and what caused it, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure that kind of thing out. I'm not an expert. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. But anecdotally, from my perception, from my observations of the world, we don't have winters like we used to. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Which is bad news for folks who love to ice fish. It's bad news for snowmobilers. You know, you can still go north and find snow, but I was talking to a guy the other day. He said, if this lack of snow continues, some parts of the state are going to be replaced by the side-by-sides. That's what people are going to run year-round rather than just 3 seasons. They're going to start running them 4 seasons. And by the way, I'm going to say Merry Christmas, and I realize that if you're listening to the broadcast version of the show, Christmas may have already passed you by, and if the podcast is your choice, we are past Christmas. But I'm going to say Merry Christmas. And I don't say Happy Holidays. I don't say Season's Greetings. I say Merry Christmas. I talked about this last week. You know, even if Christmas, as you're listening to this, is technically a day or two behind you, we can still revel, we can still joy in the celebration of the Christmas season. And again, Christmas is not just Santa Claus and presents. I talked about this last week. Please keep in mind the real reason for Christmas, the birth of a Savior. And couldn't we all use a little saving right now? The whole world can use some saving right now. And as we look forward to the new year, what are your resolutions? I never make New Year resolutions because resolutions are meant to be broken, right? I set New Year's goals. What are your New Year goals? I have made some New Year goals that I think are realistic and reasonable, and ones that I'm quite sure that I can abide by. Number one, I want to spend more time outdoors. That's one of my goals in 2022. Spend as much time outdoors as possible, and I don't mean mowing the lawn. As much time as possible on the water. As much time as possible in the turkey woods, in the bear woods, in the deer woods, in a tree stand, in a ground blind. On the water. I want to kill a Michigan bear this year. That's a goal this year. I want to kill a Michigan bear. Of all the bears I've killed, I've never killed a Michigan bear. I've had opportunities at 2 of them and passed. This year, I want to make that happen. If I'm lucky at all, I will get a third season Michigan bear tag. I'll be hunting with Johnny Bowler, and I want to make that happen. Another goal for me this year is to learn new fishing techniques and maybe some new areas. I tend to fish memories, meaning if something worked for me in the past, that's where I'm going to start out and that's where I'm going to concentrate again. I need to work to try to get myself out of that mindset. I need to do like some of the real good fishing friends I have, the ability they have, is to look at a situation, look at a day, look at the conditions, look at what the fish are telling you, dissect that information, internalize that information, and do something about it and make the appropriate change if necessary to get things going. Which means I might have to leave my beloved skinny water once in a while and put on something other than a number 7 flicker shad. Number 7 flicker shad. But if it works, why not, right? But I want to become a more broad-based angler. And I'm not talking about picking up a fly rod and going trout fishing on the Asable, which is a wonderful activity and something I dabbled in a couple of years ago and decided it just wasn't my thing. And here in the great state of Michigan, we are so lucky and so blessed that we have so many different outdoor recreational opportunities that we need to, most of us, pick and choose what our passions, what our vices, what our addictions are going to be. Because we have so many different fishing and hunting opportunities and seasons and species that you can't possibly, I don't want to say become an expert, because I'm not sure you ever truly become an expert hunter or angler, do you? But we have so many different species and critters and things and opportunities that we kind of need to specialize a little bit here. Are you going to be a walleye fisherman? You're going to be a bass fisherman? You're going to be a trout fisherman? Are you going to be an ice fisherman? You're going to be an open water fisherman? Are you going to concentrate on turkeys, on upland, grouse and woodcock and stuff, pheasant? Another goal of mine in 2021. I'm going to revisit this whole rod restriction issue that was brought up a couple of years ago that I was pushing for very hard. I didn't get anywhere with it the first time around, but I brought it up and I got the concept out there. And there are other groups now who are also interested in doing this same thing, and they kind of put it on hold because of the consent decree negotiations, which are still going on with the tribes. My patience is wearing thin on this. I am not willing to just sit back and let things work themselves out. I'm going to get actively involved in this and start to push for this again. What is I'm talking about? I think it's ridiculous that Great Lakes anglers have any restriction on the number of rods they can run. The resource is protected by the creel limit and the daily catch limit. The size and the number of fish is protected. What does it matter if you run 2 rods to catch them or 10? It doesn't. So that's something I'm going to be working on again. And finally, I want to continue to grow what it is that this has become. And what is this? I don't know. This has become a radio show. This has become podcasts. This has become social media. I want to continue to kind of take advantage of whatever technology I can, whatever social media platforms I can. I want to grow the radio show. There aren't very many more markets that I can get into in Michigan. And the ones that are open from a business perspective just aren't going to work for me. People say, "Have you ever thought of taking the show outside of Michigan?" No. Well, yeah, I've thought about it, but no, I'm not. I'm not interested. This is a Michigan-based show. We deal with Michigan-based topics. We have a lot of people from outside of the state that listen, because a lot of our subject matter, much of our subject matter, is of interest to anybody who loves to hunt and fish and shoot and trap. But to take this outside of Michigan, my level of knowledge, my level of contacts, my experience just wouldn't be there to support it. But I do want to continue to do whatever I can to promote, defend, protect, encourage, enlighten people about this outdoor lifestyle that many of us are just so absolutely passionate about. You got to get away from this digital world that we live in, right? Where you press a button or you swipe a screen and something happens. Get outdoors, get outside. Get cold, get wet, get uncomfortable. See a sunrise, see a sunset. Look at your tracks in the snow. Try to match wits with critters, with fish and wild game. When you get outside, you are no longer in control of your environment and your situation and the outcome. And to me, that is the ultimate appeal. So that's what I'm going to try to do in 2022. How about you? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. May God bless you. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Cody Norton of the Michigan DNR. I want to talk with him about cougars and bears and wolves here in Michigan. Then Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. In hour number 2, we're going to talk fishing with Mark Romanack of Fishing 411. Dave Haupt of the DNR talking about their Wardens TV show. And then in hour number 3, houndsman Jordan Farmer. And we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. That's this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And north of the bridge in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry for 75 years now. How cool is that? Think about this. When Boning Archery started, Roland Boning came up with a product called Ferrule Tight, which was designed to glue broadheads to, at the time, what were wooden shafts. These days, Boning continues to innovate, come up with new products, new manufacturing techniques. I mean, if you are a target archer or a bow hunter, there's a very, very good chance you are using Boning products, or certainly should be. Check them out online at boning.com. That's BOHNING, boning.com. While you're online, head on over to michigan.gov/DNR, the website of the Michigan DNR. There's so much information on there. You could spend the better part of a day just cruising that website and not see everything. But I'm gonna increase your learning curve here, because we're going to go to one of the guys in the DNR. His name is Cody Norton. Cody has an interesting position in the DNR. He's a wildlife biologist, but his areas of responsibility are 3 very, very interesting critters: cougars, bears, and wolves. And as you can imagine, those topics sometimes are can lead to some heated conversations here in the great state of Michigan. Cody, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. But hey, listen, you sent me a picture of a nice bear, Michigan bear you shot last fall. Congrats. That's a beauty.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
It's got to be, well, let me rephrase. Is it rewarding, especially rewarding, to work in that field and then be able to go out and recreate and enjoy the resource that you are working to help to proliferate?
Absolutely. It's something I think about a lot, especially with, bears, where you have to wait, sometimes several years to get a license, and you're working on them for years without maybe being able to pursue them at all. And it's pretty nice to get out there on your own and get to, experience that too and kind of reap some of the rewards.
Well, I was hoping, Cody, that by having you on the show here, it helps me out and increases my chances for a bear tag next year.
I'm not sure that's how it works.
Oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. All right. Well, listen, Cody, good to talk to you. We're going to let you go then. I'm just kidding you. Hey, listen. Let's talk about first of all cougars. There were several document. I say several. There were a few documented cases of cougar sightings, or especially trail cameras across the UP this fall. What's the latest there?
Sure. So far this year, all of 2021, we've confirmed 11 cougar reports or sightings. The vast majority of those are trail camera photos, like you mentioned. But that brings us up to, since we formed the cougar team in 2008, we've confirmed 75 cougar reports in the state.
I'm assuming that doesn't mean 75 animals, though.
No, and that's a really important important thing to mention. It's actually pretty neat getting to kind of track as one individual seems to move around the landscape. With trail cameras now as widely used as they are and out for as much of the year as they are now, it's almost like having a collar when an individual shows up. You can kind of track them as they're moving around. There's definitely gaps, where you aren't sure where they disappeared to, but a lot of those reports are from the same individuals.
All right, so what's the best guess? How many cats are out there?
The last 2 years, I felt, decently comfortable saying 2. This year, locations have been a little bit more clustered together and hard to tell, if we still do have, what appear to be 2 individuals or if it might just be 1. But the last couple of years we had, it looked like 1 in the West UP, 1 in the East UP, and we got a couple trail camera photos that were over 100 miles apart and within a day of each other. So those really helped us to be able to say, all right, this can't be, that same individual jumping back and forth.
Actually, I'm surprised. I thought that number would be higher.
Yeah, and I think, we hear that from folks as well. You hear about a lot of reports that end up not being cougars. And there's some reports where somebody could have seen a cougar, but we just don't have any evidence to go off of. But it sure seems like, especially now with the trail cameras and other technology, Ring, security cameras, everybody's got a cell phone in their pocket to take a picture if they see a track or scat or other sign. It sure seems like when one shows up, we're finding out about it.
And what about one of my favorite topics, bears? What's the bear population looking like in Michigan?
Yeah, we just got our 2020 bear population estimate, so we're always kind of 6 months behind because we need the harvest from the next year to try to reconstruct what the population was. But that 2020 estimate, not including cubs, was 12,336 bears, with about 78% of those in the Upper Peninsula and the other 22% in the Northern Lower. So
is that number going up or going down?
Yeah, we've been seeing increases in the UP, at a kind of a slower, steady rate. Whereas in the Northern Lower, we've been seeing increases pretty rapidly since 2012. So kind of both peninsulas, we had a pretty significant reduction in the licenses back in 2012 due to concerns with where the bear population was headed, and I think we're seeing, the results of that. We're seeing increases in both of those populations.
Anecdotally, I live in the central part of the Lower Peninsula, and we're seeing more bears down here, Cody. I've got buddies who have them on trail cameras. They've been taking out beehives in the area. We're seeing them farther south, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing for the Northern Lower is not only are we seeing, some more bears in the areas where bears typically are, but we're also seeing them spread out to new areas. And so I think it's kind of a double whammy for that population increasing. It's increasing and expanding.
So why the geographic expansion? Are these young boars being pushed out during the rut, or is this people, I hate to go back to this excuse, but I hear it, people building homes on where the land they used to live, so they have to find new territory. What's the reason?
Sure. I think anytime you see, you get to higher population densities in those established areas where you've typically had bears, you're going to have, especially, younger males for bears, but they're going to there's already a dominant male in that area or several. And in order for them to have an opportunity to kind of claim their own home range and be able to compete for mates, sometimes they take off and take a shot, claiming somewhere that hasn't been claimed yet.
I would think that they'd all be denned up, sleeping by now. But again, I'm hearing reports of people who have them on trail cameras and such within the last few days.
Yes, and we see quite a bit of variation with that. Most of them should be in the den now, but I think even last year we had reports of a bear out in the Baldwin unit in January. So if they have, an abundant food resource nearby, if conditions aren't, terrible where they're losing a lot of calories by staying out of the den, they might be denned up and take some excursions, or they might not be denned up. It just kind of depends. I actually had a bear here in the UP on a deer trail camera on November 13th. So that was pretty neat to see kind of right in the middle of a snowstorm.
And what do these dens look like? Are they holes in the ground? Are they under fallen trees? What are they?
Yeah, they can be a little bit of everything. We typically don't see the cave set up, right? Like you might see in kids' books or kind of the general thing. But we did have one bear den up in between granite slabs over in the West UP several years ago, a collared bear. So that was kind of cool to see an actual rock den. But most of these are holes dug into the ground. A lot of times they're in recent clear cuts on the side of a hill. So they're digging in and obviously aren't hitting water right away. They'll also den up in old hollow stumps in the ground where their back's exposed. They'll climb under brush piles, slash piles in an active logging operation or recently active logging operation. Sometimes under root balls and cedar swamps. It really depends. There's a lot of variation in where they set up shop for the winter.
And is this a true hibernation? Once they go to sleep, they're there till springtime, or do they come out and get active once in a while?
Yeah, so they're not true hibernators, but it's kind of interesting. True hibernators actually wake up, eat, drink, and urinate and defecate throughout the season, where bears actually don't do that, which in some ways they might be, more better adapted to make it through a winter. But what's neat about bears is they can be woken up, right? So if a logger comes in and starts cutting trees in an area where a bear is denned up in a slash pile, that bear can wake up and leave and maybe find a new den, whereas some of the true hibernators, they would be unable to do that.
Last question on bears, and we'll move on to wolves. Will we ever see, in your opinion, in the foreseeable future, a springtime Michigan bear hunt?
Yeah, that's a good question. We actually just had our Bear Forum meeting on the 17th, last Friday, and that was one of the topics that we discussed. Department leadership actually, provided input and said that they won't be recommending a spring bear hunt. And I think the majority of the forum, I've still got to go back through through all of our notes and stuff, but I believe the majority of the forum wasn't in support of having a spring bear hunt. So I think it would be a pretty big hill to climb to have that go into place in the near future.
Is the thinking is the population just isn't big enough to support it?
Yeah, you could shift harvest from the fall, obviously, but there would be a lot of unknowns around that, and if success was, higher in the spring, you might have less opportunity for hunters to get out in the woods. And then also, if you look across the country and in Canada, in general, spring bear hunts are going away. Hopefully they do not continue to, but that's kind of been a target, from different groups to try to. It's more heavily scrutinized, I guess. There's more concern about orphaning cubs, whether that actually happens, in a significant amount or not. That's just kind of one of those low-hanging fruit that gets targeted.
Yep, I got you. I understand exactly what you're saying, Cody. Hang tight. Listen, we got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with DNR wildlife biologist Cody Norton. We've talked about cougars, which means we've also talked about mountain lions and pumas. And what's the other one? They're all the same thing. Okay, big cat. We talked about bears. Now let's talk about, after the break here, Michigan wolves. How did they really get here? Did they get brought in by the DNR or what? How many are out there, and what's the future look like? More with Cody Norton coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. VersaSkins has this system where you can snap on and zip on an outer shell to change it to blaze orange, to snow camo, to regular camo, to waterfall camo, whatever you want. Very well-made products, Michigan-based company. And I'm going to save you some money. If you go to versaskins.com, that's versaskins.com, and use the promo code Avery, you'll get 20% off everything on the website through New Year's Eve. So it's kind of a limited time offer. Versaskins.com, promo code Avery, and save 20%. Versaskins.com. Talking now with Cody Norton, who is a DNR wildlife biologist. He specializes in the large carnivores, the cougars, bears, and wolves. Cody, a very interesting job. So listen, how did wolves get here in Michigan? There's a significant percentage of people in our state who are convinced the DNR brought them here.
Sure. No, and, I do want to mention there was a failed reintroduction attempt back in 1974, so kind of right after wolves got endangered species protections. So 4 wolves were captured in Minnesota, brought over to the Upper Peninsula. It was kind of a collaborative project between Northern Michigan University, the Huron Mountain Club, and the Michigan DNR. And those 4 wolves were released. They survived. Well, the longest one survived was 8 months. There was no reproduction. 2 were shot. 1 was trapped and shot, and 1 was killed by a vehicle. And those wolves, didn't reproduce. That's not where our population came from. And that was the only reintroduction attempt to bring wolves to Michigan. So that was in 1974. So we didn't see population actually start becoming established in the UP until 1988, when 3 wolves showed up in Dickinson County and actually started, scent marking and produced pups that winter. So if you think about it, look back through history, we had a bounty on wolves or a state-paid trapper system, which was kind of to help with some of the the falsification of bounties at the time, but all the way from 1817 to 1960. So even as recent as 1960, we had bounties on wolves. Those that went away in 1960. Wolves got endangered species protection in the 70s, and we could see all the way from that northeastern Minnesota population that was never extirpated. We could see them start making a comeback and start repopulating areas of Minnesota, then Wisconsin, I think the late 70s, early 80s. And eventually, like I said, 1988, we saw 3 wolves show up in the UP. And we did have wolves dispersing, coming to the UP before that. That might be one individual that ended up, showed up dead. We believe some of those were from Wisconsin, some were from Ontario. But it was really that pack of 3 in Dickinson County that kind of kicked everything off.
Man, wouldn't your life, you mentioned the Endangered Species Act, wouldn't your life be easier if that wasn't in place and you could actually manage these animals at a state level without worrying about the antis and the feds and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely a tough spot to be in where, obviously wolves in Michigan have met all federal and state recovery goals. The department supports delisting of wolves. We have a recovered, viable population that is not, by definition, by what's been put in place, they are not endangered. here in the state. So absolutely, it's a interesting spot to be in.
There's been a lot of controversy about the number of wolves. Some people say that you guys in the department are underestimating, or at least don't have a good handle on it. Are you confident on your numbers, Cody?
Yeah, we're very confident. We spend a lot of time every other winter out there surveying wolves. I mean, we're we survey over 50% of the UP landmass every time we run a survey. Typically, it's closer to 60%. But so every pack within those units that we're surveying, we are spending time in, finding them multiple times throughout the winter, following those tracks as far as possible or necessary to figure out how many different individuals are traveling together. We do, spring collaring efforts, as well as working with, if a trapper happens to catch a wolf, a coyote trapper in the fall, we'll go help them, remove the wolf and throw a collar on it if it's a pack that we're going to be surveying. I mean, we put a lot of time into this, and it's it's a published technique that we use, and I think it is I think something people get caught up with is that we're surveying them in the winter, right? So that's the lowest point in their annual cycle. So every spring, pups are going to be born. That population is going to be higher. But throughout the year, you're going to have pup mortality, you're going to have some adult mortality, and you're going to hit that next new low the following winter.
Cody, out of time, but real quick before I let you go, so what's the number you guys are putting on the UP wolf pack number, the numbers of wolves?
Sure. So 2020 was the last time we did an estimate of 695 wolves. So once again, minimum estimate, but we are surveying them again this winter as well.
All right,
so
Cody.
Something new for you this spring.
I appreciate that. Appreciate your time. Keep me in mind when you guys draw the bear tags for next year. I'll be eagerly awaiting. Cody Norton of the DNR, Michigan.gov/DNR. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. Tom Campbell wraps up hour number 1 when we come back. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. And over in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Rapid River Knives, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now. You probably carry a knife as well. They're so useful. They're a tool. I reach for mine several times a day, every day. So why not make it a handmade, custom-made piece of art, functional piece of art from the craftsman at Rapid River in the UP? Check out the website, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. And think about heading up to the showroom. It's a very impressive, very beautiful place. Chris Durson and crew do a wonderful job. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Speaking of folks who do a wonderful job, the folks over at Woods-n-Waternews, Michigan's premier outdoor publication, the website woods-n-waternews.com. Tom Campbell, one of the guys behind that publication, joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Welcome back, Tom, and Merry Christmas.
Hey, same to you, Mike. Happy holidays to you and all your listeners. And, make sure you include yourself in one of those Michigan people that do such a great job for the outdoor community, because you certainly could provide a fantastic service, Mike. We sure do appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. So listen, exciting to be looking at a new year. It looks like Show Span's going to be able to pull some things off, and we're going to be able to have those shows again. It's just, it's going to be wonderful if everybody can get back together. And I know you guys love those shows too, don't you, Tom?
Absolutely, yeah. I was just looking at the calendar, as a matter of fact. As we speak, it's less than 2 weeks away, so it's incredible how fast it does sneak up on you.
Yeah,
we do. We love getting out, and like you said, seeing our readers face to face, talking to them, getting their perspective, getting great stories. So, and as well as our advertisers being there with them, and it's a great time. And there's no doubt that we love selling subscriptions at those shows too. So,
well, hey, there's nothing wrong. Hey, we're all in business, right? There's nothing wrong with that at all.
That's right. And keeps it going.
And if your business is the outdoors, though, like yours is, the outdoors,
That's
promotion of the outdoors, and information about the outdoors. I mean, if you can make a career out of something you love, it's all good.
No, you're absolutely right, Mike. That is the truth, and it is all good, and that's why we're here all the time, and that's why we keep doing it. You got that right.
So listen, right now is the issue that's on the newsstands right now is going to be the January edition. I'm sure.
January 2022. Can you believe that?
No,
early 2020.
No.
Yes, and of course it's traditional. It's loaded with big bucks. We got a half a dozen big bucks on the cover of that January issue, and it's just that time of year, and it's such a great time to celebrate. It's incredible. I can't believe, but it just seems they're more and more every year, but I'm sure it's just to imagine better information. But yeah, it's fantastic, Mike. We've got some great big bucks. We got some good big buck stories in that January issue, and of course there's still plenty of room to keep everybody informed on new ice fishing tactics. Mark Romanack does a great piece on transportation on ice. Sometimes we don't think about that, how to get to and fro to our best fishing spots on the ice. So that's in that January issue, along with Mike Natkaus. He talks about fooling winter pike, getting ready for pike season through the hard ice. So it's loaded with great deal of information for sure.
And coincidentally, we got Mark coming up in our second hour after the break at the top of the hour.
Fantastic.
I would think, though, see, I have an advantage here with a weekly radio show in that it's a little bit more immediate. That I'm going to know if it's going to be open water fishing or ice fishing in general. You guys don't share that luxury. You're basing it on previous years, right?
Exactly right, Mike. And traditionally, where we're at, and then so what we try to do is we always, caution about ice safety and make sure it's safe ice before you do this. And then we always sprinkle in things that, well, if it is open ice, here's what you can do. And things like in the January issue, there's a great piece by Drew Youngdyke talking about, well, during the winter months when the ice isn't quite safe enough, here's a project you could tie some simple flies for spring fishing, for panfish in the spring, and do it while you got time in the wintertime. So we always try to keep things going, whether the ice is there or not ice, if the weather turns bad on us. You're always going to find great information in the Woods-n-Waternews each month.
Oh, absolutely. And Drew Youngdyke, man, he's made quite an impression in the outdoor industry from his days as at MUCC as their PR guy, now over at National Wildlife Federation. But he's really grown into a podcaster and outdoor writer.
Absolutely right. You're so right, Mike, and I'm so glad he's back in our pages. Yeah,
wonderful.
He's a great asset. Yeah.
Well, listen, Tom. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I will look forward to seeing you in Novi at the Ultimate Fishing Show in Detroit. Here coming up real soon.
Sounds good. Very good, Mike. Take care.
All right. Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews, Michigan's premier outdoor publication. The website woods-n-waternews.com, woods-n-waternews.com. Tom mentioned Mark Romanack. He is coming up in the second hour of this week's show. We'll talk a little fishing for sure. Will it be open water fishing? Will it be ice fishing? And what are his plans? What is Mother Nature allowing him to do right now? And then Dave Haupt of the DNR talking about their relationship with this TV production company that produces the Wardens TV show. And then we'll wrap up hour number 2 with this week's Ask Avery segment. That's coming up in hour number 2 right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, heard on 32 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I'm so glad to have you along with us. Merry Christmas to you. If you are listening to the podcast version of the show, it might be more appropriate to say Happy New Year, depending on what the timing is of when you're hearing my voice, but the fact that you do hear my voice means a lot to me here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. I keep talking about radio, right? This is a radio show. And I make this distinction because I make a distinction between podcasting and radio, because everybody has a podcast. I have several of them, and I enjoy podcasting, but there aren't many at all syndicated radio shows, outdoor radio shows at the statewide level that the Outdoor Magazine show is. And for that, I thank God, and I thank you for listening. So thank you very much for helping to make this possible after all these years. And I do think the best way to listen to Outdoor Magazine Radio, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. But if you can't, if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know that there is a podcast version of the show? And you can hear that podcast anywhere you get your podcasts from. You can hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my Facebook page, and then all the different podcast outlets, Amazon Music, Audible, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, the whole gamut. I even put a version on YouTube. But, and speaking of podcasts, I also do podcasts for Jay's Sporting Goods, Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Polar Craft Boats, Shadow Hunter Blinds, and we're adding Primal Tree Stands, the Primal podcast, coming up in January as well. So I would encourage you to check those out and give a listen if you like. Also need to encourage you to follow Mark Romanack. You know Mark. He's a very, very well-named here in the outdoors, in the fishing world, here in the great state of Michigan. A naturalist, an outdoor writer, an expert angler, troller. I mean, he's got it all. His website, fishing411.net, fishing411.net. And I always welcome the times when I can get him to slow down enough to join me here on the Outdoor Magazine phone line, and this is one of those times. Mark, welcome back. How are you?
Mike, I'm doing great. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you as well, my friend. Can I assume here at the holiday season and as this transition between open water and ice fishing that things slow down for you a little bit, or does that not even a concept for you anymore?
No way, my friend. It's definitely not slowing down, especially the year or two that we've been going through here as of late. I'm actually at the Smoker Craft Factory as we're talking right now, and I'm picking up a new boat that will ultimately be going to the Novi Ultimate Fishing Show January 6th through the 9th. So, no, there's no rest for the wicked, and certainly we're all wicked this year.
and isn't it nice to know, I was just talking to Tom Campbell about this, that the show span looks like they're going to be able to pull these shows off, or we're going to be able to get together this year and kind of celebrate this common heritage of the outdoors.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it. It's, I felt like a fish out of water, no pun intended, without doing sport shows. The last one that we did was Outdoor Rama in 2019. So it's been almost 2 years.
Wow.
And so I'm really looking forward to it. It's an opportunity for us to see, our followers and our fans face to face and do what we do best, which is communicate the outdoor message. And we really have had our hands cuffed because of COVID, but I expect the show will be very successful. It might be a little bit different. Let's face it, the world is different in 2022 than it was in 2019. But I think it's still going to be a great show, and people are going to enjoy themselves.
Well, I do as well. And you guys do such a great job at these shows. You and Jake and your wife, Mary, you pull out all the stops. I mean, you put on a heck of a show.
Well, and we certainly have had a lot of practice at it. 30-some years of doing boat and sport fishing shows. I guess after a while, you get a nice polished edge there. So Although we might be a little rusty considering neither Jake or I have done seminars since 2019, but hopefully it'll all come back.
What about fishing activities? I mean, it's weird right now. Are you finding ice? Are you on open water? What are you doing?
Well, as far as for ice, we just don't have it quite yet in our neck of the woods. But Jake just came back from Lake of the Woods. He goes there every year and fishes that first ice. And believe it or not, they actually get ice right around Thanksgiving. So he was fishing on 8 to 10 inches of ice there last week and just catching the living snot out of walleyes. Kid came home after 5 days there and caught over 400 walleyes in 5 days. So he can't even wipe the smile off his face. It's ridiculous. So he got his fix on ice fishing, but we're still open water fishing here. Saginaw Bay is still open, and it's probably going to be open for a while. Lake St. Clair is open. St. Clair River, the Detroit River, Lake Erie are all open. Are all producing fish. So these days we don't stop fishing open water until Mother Nature makes it impossible to fish.
Is that a recent trend, or am I just hearing more about it now? It seems like there's more hardcore trollers and open water guys out there than ever.
Well, it definitely is a change from historically what happened. Historically, in the Great Lakes, people started fishing around Memorial Day, so the end of May, and they were pretty much done, and they had wrapped up their season by Labor Day, or in September. That's not the case anymore. Pretty much, if there's open water, there's somebody fishing the Great Lakes year-round. Guys are pushing the envelope. We've discovered we can still catch these fish even in brutal conditions in extreme cold water. It's a matter of using the right presentations and going slow enough to interest those fish, but there's no reason why you can't catch them. And quite honestly, some of the biggest fish of the year are caught during this, real late, pre-ice fishing season, we'll call it, for lack of a better term. It's good fishing. Yeah,
I see pictures coming out of Saginaw Bay now recently that I would die for in the summertime. We just don't see fish that size in the summertime.
No. That is absolutely correct. And, the way it works in Saginaw Bay is that those bigger fish are, oftentimes out in Lake Huron during the summertime, and then they come back into the inner bay when the waters start to cool down. They're looking for those gizzard shad that are going to be around the river mouths. And so we do see those fish come in every year. Looks like, they've showed up here this fall. Guys are catching them. Looks like that's a good suggestion that we'll have excellent ice fishing once the bay finally freezes, because we know there's a lot of fish there right now. So if you're a hard water guy, you just need some cool nights, and we'll be fishing on the ice. If you're an open water guy, you're probably praying for mild weather because the fishing's great right now in Saginaw Bay.
You mentioned, a presentation, extreme cold water presentation, speed. Speed's a big part of that, Mark?
It's pretty much everything. I mean, there are lures that, some produce better than others. But no matter what lure you're using, whatever brand lure that, you're in love with, you're going to be pulling it slow. And I mean, probably slower than any other time of the year, even getting down to a mile an hour and below a mile an hour in order to get these fish to bite. When you're fishing in water that's 34, 35, 36 degrees, you have to slow down. The fish will still eat. They just won't chase. So if you go slower, you'll nurse those bites, and you'll get those bites you're looking for. If you keep that mentality of fishing like 2 miles an hour like you had in the summertime, you'll be blowing right past fish that simply won't react to your baits.
This time of year right now, you said it produces some big fish, but also in talking with you in the past, I know that early ice, first ice, is some of the best fishing of the year as well. Is that just a continuation of what we're dealing with right now?
Precisely. That's exactly what's going on. Is that these fish have showed up in the bay. They've showed up there to eat the gizzard shad, which tend to concentrate in the inner bay this time of year. So the fish show up with the feed bag, and it doesn't matter whether it's open water or whether it's hard water. They're going to eat. And so if it's hard water, obviously you're going to be jigging for them. If it's not hard water, if it's open water, you're going to be slow trolling. But you can catch them either way. So the fisherman is a winner either way in this situation. I know some guys prefer to ice fish, some guys prefer to open water fish, but either way, there's going to be great opportunities throughout December into January. I don't have a prediction of whether we will or won't get ice, but There's been some years we've caught them in Saginaw Bay in open water in February.
Well, taking this to an inland conversation, we can be pretty well assured we're going to get ice on most of these inland lakes, at least in the northern part of the state. And I know you love early ice action for panfish.
Yeah, and I think we're still pretty safe in that regard. I live in the Cadillac area. We don't have fishable ice yet on all of our inland lakes, but they're all skimmed over. like Cadillac and Mitchell and Misaki have all got a skim of ice on them. So right now, all it's going to take is just a few cold nights, and we'll have walkable ice. And absolutely, that first ice, you cannot beat it. If you're a bluegill or a crappie guy, you cannot beat it. Those fish will be snapping, to put it bluntly. They feed no better than on that first ice when there's still plenty of oxygen in the water, when there's still plenty of light that's penetrating the ice to keep them active. That first few weeks of the ice fishing season, you can't beat it.
We're talking with Mark Romanack here at the Outdoor Magazine Show. You know Mark. His website is fishing411.net. He is also the guy behind what we used to call the Troller's Bible, the precision trolling app these days. And we'll see if we get a chance to talk about that or not. It's not really the right time of year, I guess, to talk about that. But I would encourage you to check that out. You can download it on your Android phone. I think it's Google Play or the Google Play Store, and of course the App Store on your iPhone as well. If you are a troller, you need this app, because I'm still calling it the Troller's Bible. Even though it's an electronic form, it is the most critical piece of gear you might take out on your boat. Anyway, we'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll talk more with Mark about panfish through the ice. Follow up on something that Tom Campbell said about Mark's thoughts on transportation on the ice, and much more as we continue our conversation with Mark Romanack of Fishing 411, fishing411.net, right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Caro on two stations, 1360 AM WKYO and 92.1 FM WIDL. And you can hear us in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM and 100.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website. It's MUCC.org. MUCC.org. By the way, use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, and save 25% on your MUCC membership, either signing up for the first time or your renewal. MUCC.org, promo code Mike, all caps, and save money. While you're online, as I said earlier, go over to fishing411.net, the website of Mark Romanack, working with his son Jake Romanack. You'll see Jake prominently featured these days, and also his wife Mary is involved in the company as well, so it's a family operation. Mark, congrats on all the success over the years. And maybe some people don't realize, too, you're not just a hardcore angler. You're an avid outdoorsman. You're a hardcore hunter. How was your fall hunting season?
It was actually pretty good, Mike. We, of course, I like the waterfowl hunt, so I spent a lot of time traveling. Was in Saskatchewan for 2 weeks. Got my fill of, I call web feet, lots of ducks and geese there. Came home and did quite a bit of waterfowl hunting at home, close to home. Had a very good season in northern Michigan, again, hunting ducks and geese. And then we transitioned, just before rifle season, we transitioned to do a little bit of deer hunting. Mary and I both shot nice bucks this year, so out of the same blind, 1 day apart. So from our perspective, we had an absolutely magnificent hunting season.
I guess so, and the freezer's full. There's no room for fish.
Well, we'll always make room. They make freezers every day.
There you go. Hey, so listen, if I had to pin you down on your favorite style of fishing, because I think of you as a troller, but yet I hear you talk about ice fishing, and you're so knowledgeable and have so much expertise in that area. Yet I've seen you jigging, I've seen you catching fish jigging and casting. I mean, how do you describe yourself? Is there one that is just you absolutely love more than the other?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, we make a living in the trolling industry, and I agree that most people do associate what we do is trolling. And I love that. When we're trolling, I love every second of it. But we do that an awful lot. What I don't get to do an awful lot is pitching jigs and vertical jigging. So if you put me on the Detroit River, or you put me on the St. Clair River, or even the Saginaw River with a jigging stick in my hand, and there's a few walleyes around, I'm going to have a smile on my face. I love feeling the fish bite. I love swinging on those fish and feeling that rod come tight on that fish and the head shakes. It doesn't get much better than that. So I really do enjoy the whole rod in hand jigging thing. I just don't get to do it nearly as much as I get to troll.
In watching you over the years, I've always been impressed with your level of, with your ability to look at a situation and dissect it. And I talk about this all the time. I go out in the water, and if I catch fish, it's a bonus. Some days I do well, some days I struggle. But I don't have the ability to kind of look at a situation and figure out what's going on. And I look at a guy like you, Mark, and you're so good at that. I mean, paying attention to the details, being willing to go the extra step. Those things that are seemingly small pieces end up being very important on certain days, aren't they?
Well, there's no question about it. And it comes with experience. I think if you spend a lot of time on the water, inevitably, some of this is going to sink in, and you're going to start to get real strong opinions about what you need to do in certain situations. And sometimes you make that decision and it's absolutely the wrong decision and you pay the price. But many times you make the right decision, and there's there's really no substitute for experience. And no matter what it is in fishing, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. To use jig fishing as an example, I can remember when Jake was young and how frustrated he would get with jig fishing because he just couldn't seem to feel the bite, couldn't seem to catch the fish. And he'd sit there and watch me and the other guys in the boat, putting a hurt on him. And these days, Jake is stuck with it to the point where, to use jigging again as an example, if you're jigging with Jake in the boat, he's the man to beat. I mean, he is a tough stick. He is going to be very difficult to outfish on any given day. It's rare that he's not the guy that catches the most and the biggest in any given day.
And isn't it nice to be able to have him by your side these days in the boat and on the TV show?
Well, you and I have joked about this, not in public, but I kind of look at Jake as my retired. and
yep.
And he's going to keep the businesses going, and he's going to take care of the old man in the end here. I'm just quite certain. But he's got all the skill sets. He's a good communicator. He's an outstanding fisherman. He's got the video skills. He can shoot. He can edit. He's got a really good rapport with working with sponsors and working with people in the public. He understands the necessity of putting ourselves out there, answering questions for people on social media or wherever it might be. He's out there every day answering questions for people. So he's the real deal. He gets the package, and so I'm very comfortable that moving forward, it'll be Jake at the helm, and it'll be Mary and I kind of sitting back and just enjoying the ride.
And good for you. And it's not enough in today's world. If you want to succeed in the outdoor industry, it's not enough. Well, probably any industry. It's not enough just to be able to be a good hunter or a good angler. You've got to take it beyond that. You've got to be able to do all those things you talked about in being willing to communicate with people and do the social media and all that stuff. It's a different ballgame than it was when you and I started years ago.
It is, and in many ways, it has changed. In some ways, it's the same. I've always preached to people that you need to be good at what you're doing, and so if it's fishing, that's what you want to do. Fine. If it's you want to be a good deer hunter, you want to be a good waterfowl hunter. You probably noticed, like in my writing, you rarely ever see me write an article about turkey hunting. I don't know anything about turkeys. I could certainly write an article. I could research it and write an article, but I'm not the authority on turkey hunting. I try to stay away from subjects that I'm not comfortable with or that I don't know much about, and stick to the things that I know, stick to the things that I'm very comfortable with, that my knowledge is going to help other people. So find a niche and stick to the niche. It's probably the best advice I can give folks.
I hadn't realized that. No, I don't see you write things about turkey hunting, but I suspect you're out there in the springtime, or are you fishing too much to be doing much turkey hunting?
Well, I've killed my fair share of turkeys, but again, I'm not the guy to talk to. If you're really interested in turkey hunting, there's a lot of guys that can fill you in much better than I can. So I just have found that the fishing thing is where we want to focus our efforts. The hunting thing, I do write a little bit about duck hunting. I don't write about deer hunting anymore. The reason I'm writing about duck hunting is because I'm still very passionate about it. But the bottom line is that 99% of our effort goes into fishing, and that's where we put our marbles.
I want to follow up on something Tom Campbell brought up here, and I don't want to diminish from his article in this latest edition of Woods-n-Waternews, but he said you've got a piece in there on transportation on the ice. At first blush, it seems like, well, that doesn't seem story-worthy, but as I think about it, it really is, isn't it?
Well, very much so. I mean, The problem with ice fishing is it's all about mobility. If you don't have mobility, you're going to struggle. I mean, picture yourself walking out on the ice, drilling 2 holes, 8 inches in diameter, sitting on a bucket. I mean, you got to be a pretty lucky guy to drill those holes right on fish. Chances are those first 2 holes are not going to be where the fish are, and you have no recourse but to drill more and more and keep moving until you get on fish. And so if you're in a small inland lake, obviously you can do this with foot traffic. There's no problem. You can pull a small sled, a small shelter if you want, and do everything you want by foot. But as you start getting into the bigger bodies of water, you're going to be forced to look at some other means of transportation. And that's what the article is all about. It talks about the choices that are out there and the pluses and the minuses for each one, things like snowmobiles, UTVs, quads, or, amphibious vehicles like with the Argo, other types of tracked vehicles. And all of them have pluses and minuses, and that's what it really is about, is trying to help people figure out what's best for them, what's going to work in the way they like to fish, what's going to be the most successful for them, and getting better mobility.
You bring up the fact that when you're on the ice, you are in some ways basically limited, and you've got to be able to move, right? I mean, we wouldn't fish open water in one spot all day if the fish weren't biting. Yet I think sometimes people on the ice tend to, because it's more work, Mark. It's more work to get to where you want to go, and then you got to get through that ice. Maybe that's why people tend to sit still more on the ice.
There's no question it's more work, but fortunately, modern ice fishermen have got some advantages. It used to be that you had to hug this great big gas auger out there, which was heavy, hard to use. Nowadays, we have these augers that are operated with little lithium-powered drills. I mean, so, an auger only weighs a few pounds, so it's easy to haul that around, cuts through the ice like nothing else, and so you can put multiple holes in without wearing yourself out. But, in general, ice fishing is more work, and Jake gets all upset with me when I say this because I say that ice fishing is twice as much work for half as many bites. It's true, but but he's willing to put in twice as much effort to get half as many bites because he loves it.
And it is interesting too that the technology has invaded the ice area as well, not just in the augers and such, but the electronics. I mean, a hardcore ice fisherman is going to have a lot invested in his gear, maybe as much as an open water guy.
Well, it's getting there. I mean, a nice premium shack is going to set you back $1,000. If you're using an active target or some live, form of sonar, you've got $2,000 tied up into that. You certainly have got $500 into an electric auger. Jigging sticks, which used to be, made out of fiberglass and they were $10 a piece, they're $100 to $150 now. They're custom jigging sticks. So, yeah, it's like an investment of a boat only on ice, and then add to that a snowmobile, an Argo, a UTV. You're pretty quick. You've got a major investment, and then you got to have a trailer to haul all that stuff. So yeah, it gets expensive, but I've never complained about the money we invest in the outdoors. It pays us back in many ways, primarily just the enjoyment that we get from fishing.
And Mark, listen, it's always a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you at the sports shows coming up this winter. And I talked about the Precision Trolling app. Really no time to go into that now, but my sense is that continues to be such a critical part for so many trollers. I mean, that thing is still going strong in the app form too, isn't it?
Well, in fact, it's stronger in the app form than it ever was in the book format. Customers keep popping up out of the woodwork. I don't know where they're coming from, Mike, but every month our sales go up. We've been blessed. There's no question the good Lord is looking after us in the Precision Trolling Project. We keep creating new data. People keep buying the app. And it's a great ride to be on right now. Let me tell you.
Well, you keep creating it, and I'll keep downloading it, my friend. Mark Romanack of Fishing 411, Precision Trolling, the website fishing411.net. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Mark Romanack of fishing411.net. One of the big names in the outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. Mark and I worked together for many, many years. I remember back when I was a kid as a TV reporter in Saginaw, he was a naturalist working for the Greenpoint Nature Center. That's how far back that goes. And that's one of the things about these friendships made in the outdoors. They go on for on and on and on, and isn't that great? More coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. you can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. Also talking in the previous segment with Mark Romanack about ice fishing. If we get an ice fishing season on Saginaw Bay, Linwood Beach, a great place to take off on your ice fishing expeditions. And if you're looking forward to next spring, and it might be a little too early to start thinking that direction, but maybe not. Linwood Beach has a wonderful campground and boat launch. LinwoodBeachMarina.com is the website, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. While you're online, please head over to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then make the jump over to Michigan.gov/DNR. Everything outdoors in the state is going on that website. Right now, though, we want to talk with somebody from the DNR. His name is Dave Haupt. Dave, well, first of all, Dave, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
I am very interested in what you guys are doing with this Wardens TV show, and it's actually your job to be kind of the coordinator, the liaison here, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, I kind of sought it out when I heard they were partnering with us, and they basically let me do it as long as I was able to do my real job, which is connectivity to all of our field offices across the state. So, but I really enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun.
So what's the reason for this partnership? Is it to provide hopefully positive exposure for your wardens? Is it educational? Is it informational? Because I know it's got to be kind of a hassle to put it all together.
Well, it's all of the above. I kind of think of it as a mix of the TV show Cops and Michigan Out of Doors, two of my favorite shows. Mm-hmm. So, what we do is we'll start out, and I know there's a lot of other shows out that are kind of doing this thing where they follow the officers out in the field. But the twist with us is we're kind of doing almost a half and half show. So we'll start out with an officer, maybe he's on patrol, just showing the things that they do, visit schools. Sometimes they're involved with search and rescue. Sometimes they're helping during catastrophic events like the mid-Michigan floods and the Copper Country floods. We want to show all these different things that they do. And then within that, we also want to educate and show people what our other employees are doing, our biologists, our foresters, park employees, the staff at our offices. They all play a part in this. And some of like you mentioned, I guess it's trying to educate people. I mentioned to you before, I used to answer the phones at our Southfield office, easily 100-plus phone calls a day with people with questions. And so I've always felt I had this idea of what the public is missing. Sometimes it's hard when you're writing the laws and doing all of the work here at the DNR. You kind of lose perspective of people who aren't focused on that all the day. Mm-hmm, what we try and do with this show is we may show maybe they're on patrol for a snagging complaint. There's plenty of places around the state where those exist. So what we want to do is not only show that, but explain why these laws exist. We know that snagging, some people don't understand why it's not legal. And, we'll have a fishery biologist on there, and he'll explain, it's to protect the non-targeted species. If you're out there trying to get these salmon, and you're snagging walleye and trout and everything else, that's detrimental to the other species. So we'll also take time, maybe there's a timber theft that an officer's investigating. We'll do a B story on explaining the benefits of clear cutting and prescribed burns. A lot of people will see clear cuts or burns and they think, why are you destroying this habitat? And we'll have someone on there to explain, this is very planned out. There's basically a 10-year plan for every part of the state when it comes to the forest. And we're going to show why they do what they do and how it benefits everyone.
So, Dave, where can people see this show, The Wardens?
So it is on the Outdoor Channel. We begin our 5th season. There's going to be 13 new episodes. They debut every Friday evening at 8:30 on Outdoor Channel. You can get that on your local cable, or you can go to My Outdoor TV and Amazon Prime. They have it. And also something new, WLUC Fox UP on free TV actually shows episodes every morning, Sunday morning at 9:30. And they're hoping to do that more often here. Wolf Creek Productions out of Perry, Michigan is the one who handles the putting the show together. And they're hoping to get that across the state as well at some other locations.
5th season. I didn't realize you guys have been doing it that long.
It goes by fast.
It certainly does. All right, Dave, listen, I appreciate the info on that. Again, you said Outdoor Channel, and you're starting a new season now, right?
Yep. December 31st, Friday evening at 8:30 will be the brand new episode.
All right, Dave, appreciate the input. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Dave. Dave Haupt of the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR is the website. Have you seen the Wardens TV show? It's pretty cool. And it's interesting. Here's the way I look at this. I used to work with game wardens a lot, and I used to carry an old-fashioned TV camera with me and an old-fashioned recorder with me. And you know the hardest part of the whole thing was carrying all that gear in a patrol car or a patrol truck and trying to follow these guys around. If I was to do that these days, I'd use my phone. And it would be so much easier, and the video quality would be so much better, and the storytelling would be so much more effective. That's how I look at it from the technical and the production perspective. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment, and it's a twofer or maybe even a threefer this time. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sandusky on WMIC. That's 660 AM and 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to pose a question, to ask me a question, maybe something that you want me to answer directly, or a question that you want me to pass along to somebody else. The best way to get these to me, in my opinion, is to send me an email. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And that's exactly what Craig Plowman did this week. In fact, he sent me an email with 5 different questions. But we're not going to answer them all here, Craig. Don't get greedy here, buddy. And I can say that because Craig is actually a friend of mine. His first question, he says, when you were talking with the owner of Linwood Taxidermy a couple of weeks ago, and that's Scott Keatsman, he said a mount would last 40 years if properly maintained. What does properly maintained on a mount mean? Now, I suspect Craig actually knows the answer to this when he's just throwing me a bone to help me fill content. And Craig, I do appreciate that. With mounts, and I know this from talking to Scott, I know this from talking for years with R.J. Meyer, formerly of Trophy Room Taxidermy, and I know this from having a basement full of mounts. 2 things. You want to keep them clean, and you want to avoid extreme temperature variations. By keeping them clean, what does that mean? Well, you're going to have dust that's going to settle on these things. And at our place, we've had several remodeling construction projects that have created a lot of dust. So wipe them down. I have heard people say that they'll take a cloth and put some furniture polish on it. I would not do that. What I like to do is take a white cloth and get it a little bit, well, not white, a cotton cloth and get it a little bit damp and just wipe the mounts off. Go with the direction that the fur is growing. If it's a critter, right? Just wipe them off once in a while. That's basically all you have to do. As far as temperature variations, the experts always say don't put them above a fireplace because it gets too hot. If you go to my house right now, above the fireplace, you're going to see 3 whitetail mounts. So I'm going to break my own advice here, but if it's a fireplace like on a main floor that you burn all the time, yeah, I would try to avoid putting them out above it. Like in the basement, it doesn't get used that much, so I feel comfortable doing that. Some people want to put them out in their shed or their barn, and it's okay if they get cold, it's okay if they get warm. But when you start going to these extreme variations, like if you put it out there and it freezes and then it gets warm, they're tanned, so they're going to be like leather, but they've also got materials in there that are going to move a little bit, they're going to shift a little bit. So you just keep them clean, wipe them off once in a while. I actually use a vacuum sometimes, the vacuum hose, to get some dust off, or my bear rugs that are on the floor, I'll actually run a vacuum over those with the beater that goes around. Just make sure you go in the direction that the hair's, the hair wants to go, and you'll be just fine. Second question from Craig. If you lease property, can you call the DNR if you encounter a trespasser? He said there was a large response to a Facebook post, and some said yes, some said no. He says, additionally, some say you can only call if you have written permission from the landowner, and the written permission includes the authority to call the DNR. I posed this question to Lieutenant Jason Wickland of the DNR. The answer is yes, the leasee has the same rights as the owner of the property. Now, two different types of trespass here. Criminal trespass is if you tell somebody to leave and they don't, or if you've told them to leave and they come back. Recreational trespass is if somebody's on posted or enclosed farmland. Written permission is the easiest way to prove this. It says we always have to deal with Joe Smith told me I can hunt here, and it's tough to show intent. So always have written permission. It's okay to have a phone number on there as well, so the conservation officer can follow up and check in. But yes, it's not necessary to have written permission, but it's a good idea because it makes it easier to figure things out. But the gist of this question is, Craig says, if you lease property, can you call the DNR if you encounter a trespasser? And the answer to that is absolutely. The leasee has the same rights as the owner of the property, but you don't have to pay taxes on it, so you got that going for you, right? All right, thank you, Craig, for posing those two questions. I do certainly appreciate it. If you want to get me questions for the Ask Avery segment, the email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And thank you, as always, to our friends at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. SecurityCU.org, that's SecurityCU.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to talk about hound hunting with Jordan Farmer, one of the best-known houndsmen in the state. I thought we were going to talk primarily about coyote hunting. He said they're not doing that much anymore, but they are hunting bobcats, which is a timely topic, right? And that and more. And, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar coming up in hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, and so glad to have you along with us. So depending on when you are listening to the show, the broadcast version or the podcast, it's appropriate for me to say Merry Christmas or Happy New Year, and please take that in the in the sincerest intent that it was the way it was intended. I mean, I appreciate so much the fact that you listen to the radio show, that you download the podcast, that you follow me on social media, that you allow me to continue to do something that is a true passion of mine. After all these years, I still love to come into the studio. I still love to get in the microphone. I still love to do the posts, and at almost as much as I love to get out hunting and fishing. Because that's what this whole thing kind of revolves around, doesn't it? This outdoor lifestyle that here in Michigan, many of us are so passionate about, and many of us grew up in this lifestyle of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, and we're still able to do it today. Granted, it's under some scrutiny these days that it wasn't when, years ago. But that's a whole nother topic, isn't it? As we move into the wintertime, and it is officially winter now, regardless of what Mother Nature may be doing outside your window as you're listening to this show, it is officially winter now. And that opens up a whole new world of outdoor recreational opportunities. Talking in hour number 2, our second hour with Mark Romanack about will we be open water fishing or will we be ice fishing? Some things you just don't have any control over, right? But this wintertime season, we kind of make this transition. A lot of people are ice fishing or rabbit hunting. Predator hunting has become huge in Michigan these days. Most people who hunt, I think, predators in Michigan tend to be callers. They set up and they call in with an electronic call or a mouth call. A lot of hunters these days using hunting after dark and using thermal imaging, really high-tech stuff. It's all cool and it's all fascinating to me. But I'm also very much fascinated by this whole idea of this tradition of using dogs to hunt with, a houndsman. I'm not sure Michigan has the tradition of houndsmen that some of the southern states do. In fact, I've talked about this before. In some circles in our state, the hound hunters are kind of looked down on, and it makes me mad to no end. It just why is somebody revered to hunt a woodcock or grouse behind a pointer or a setter, and the guy that goes out and runs coyotes or bears with hounds is somehow looked down on? That bothers me. So I like to seek out opportunities to give these houndsmen positive exposure. And when I'm looking for a topic like this, one of the guys I go to on a regular basis is in my opinion, one of the most well-known and respected houndsmen in the state, and his name is Jordan Farmer. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jordan, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Mike. Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So listen, is Mother Nature cooperating in your neck of the woods, your part of the world? Have you been able to run the dogs at all much lately?
No, we haven't. I haven't been out yet. The snow's been kind of on and off, and we like to have good snow if we can to run, but it'd snow and then it'd rain and it crust up on us. And we got some snow last night, so we'll be out here in the next couple of days hunting. So. Good.
And when I got in touch with you, Jordan, I thought we would talk primarily about running coyotes with dogs, but you said you guys aren't doing that much anymore.
No, we, me and my brother, we grew up running coyotes and kind of shied away from it, and we're just bear and bobcat now.
Well, do you mind if I ask, why move away from coyotes? Is there social pressure or something, or what?
No, I don't know. I guess we just try to limit what we're running with the dogs, and if you're bobcat hunting and you run across a coyote track and you're running coyotes with your dogs, then, 99% of the time they're probably going to take the coyote, if you got my luck. But, so we kind of try to avoid that, I guess, and I don't know. I think it's a little more fun of a hunt than coyotes myself, just in my opinion. But just kind of try to leave it to the bobcats anymore.
No, hey, listen, I get it, and sometimes maybe you've done something for so long, you're just looking for something a little bit different. Just try something different and explore that for a while.
Yep, absolutely.
I got to be honest, though, Jordan. I'm not sure I even knew that you could hunt bobcats with dogs.
Yep. Oh yeah, yep. It's a riot. It's in my opinion, I think it's one of the funnest hunts that there is. I mean, it's awesome. It's between that and bear, it's tough to pick for me.
Well, you know me and my bear hunting. I love my bear hunting, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So describe for me then the process of hunting bobcats with dogs. I'm thinking, okay, cats are going to live in some thickest, gnarliest stuff. They're not going to be out in the open like coyotes for the most part, or am I looking at this wrong?
No, for the most part, you're right. I mean, you will find them up in the hardwoods and stuff. Anywhere that there's food, deer, rabbits, birds, that's where you're going to find your cats. So, most time down in the deer yards or something in the thick cedars or conifers or whatever, it's where you usually find them. But, you're just up early in the morning looking for tracks. Hopefully you got some fresh snow and looking for tracks and try to find a good track and let a couple of dogs go and go from there.
You said they're looking for food. Can a bobcat take down a whitetail?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Really?
Yep. Absolutely.
So how big are these bobcats? I think most people in Michigan have never even seen one, to be honest with you.
I would say your average cat's probably 25 to 27 pounds or so. If you're hitting 30, that's a good cat, and we've got probably a half a dozen over 40.
Wow.
Which is that's a super big cat. But, I'd say right there between 27 and 30 pounds or so is at least for the UP. I know the guys downstate, it's a little different. They're not quite as big. They don't get quite as big down there for the most part, but most of my experience is up here with them.
You mentioned downstate. We are seeing more cats in the central part of the Lower Peninsula, and maybe it's because there's more trail cameras out there. Maybe they've always been here. We're just seeing them now. But I feel like, more hunters deer hunters are out there seeing cats than ever before too. A good, healthy, expanding population from what you've seen.
Yeah, I think so. I've read a lot of things about population and how it works with them, and supposedly they're on like a 7-year cycle or something with the rabbits. And so, when your rabbits are up, your cats are up. And but the last, 3-4 years, I think they've a good population of them, it seems.
You mentioned something, and I'm cringing to bring it up, but I got to follow up with it. You talked about cats in a deer yard and then letting your dogs go in there. I think some people are going to cringe with the thought of you guys running dogs in a deer yard. Yeah,
a lot of people do, but it's amazing. I've gone into deer yards, cold trailing a cat, and you'll jump 15, 20 deer, and they'll run 20 yards and sit there and stare at you, and half the time they lay back down. The dogs, they aren't bothering them one bit. They aren't running them off or anything like a lot of people think. Those deer, they aren't going far at all. They might, like say, get up and run for 50 yards, but they stop right there. And once we're gone and through there, they come back, or like you say, they just lay right back down there.
What kind of dogs are we talking, Jordan? I got to believe up there in big snow country, we're talking some long-legged critters.
We got mostly blue ticks, and I guess we got a couple plots too here, but mostly blue ticks.
Same dogs that you would run coyotes or bears with too?
Yeah, yep, yeah. A lot of, not as, with bear, you're running a few more dogs than you are with cats. But yeah, we got a select few that we just run on bobcats mostly. And they run both. They run bear and bobcat.
So how do you, and I might have to cut you off here because we might run out of time. I'll pick it up in the next segment. Yep. How do you teach an animal to either focus on one critter or another, or they already know how to do it? Yeah,
I think it's just kind of instinct, bobcat season, there's snow, and most of the time during bear season, there's not. And if you're putting your dog on whatever track that you find that you want them to run, most of the time they're gonna follow that. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, I feel like sometimes these animals are they know more about what we're trying to do than we do. We just have to follow them and listen to them.
Absolutely, for sure.
All right, Jordan, hang tight. Listen, I got to take that break I talked about. This is the Outdoor Magazine Show. My name is Mike Avery. I'm talking with houndsman Jordan Farmer about hunting bobcats with hounds. Now, I knew about, bears, obviously, and coyotes a big deal, but I'm not so much aware on the bobcats. We'll learn more about that with one of the best out there, Jordan Farmer, right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Newberry on WNBY, 1450 AM. And you can hear us in Holland on WHTC, 1450 AM and 99.7 FM. It's Holland, Michigan, by the way. You can hear the podcast in the country of Holland. But we're talking about the great state of Michigan here. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's our nature, let's see, how does it go? Your nature, our nurture. That's how it is. Your nature, our nurture. And they prove that over and over again with me at my place. They do a wonderful job. They did create an outdoor getaway in our backyard. Although I look at it right now, and it doesn't look that inviting. It looks kind of cold. It looks like I just soon be sitting in the house and looking at it, which is what I am. However, that doesn't mean the folks from Reader aren't doing anything this season. They're also doing snow removal. So if you think you could use some help in that direction, give them a call, check them out. And if you want to look forward to next spring's project, it's not too early for that. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's REDER, readerlandscaping.com. Talking now with Jordan Farmer. Jordan is a houndsman, very well-known houndsman here in Michigan. Used to run coyotes, these days primarily bears and bobcat. And Jordan, where do you find these cats?
Mostly, thick swamps, river bottoms, that kind of stuff.
Are you hunting primarily the UP or the northern lower too?
Mostly just the UP. Sometimes in the lower, but mostly the UP.
Now, remind me, didn't we talk before when you were, haven't you had, your dogs have run into wolves up there before, haven't they?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Has that happened lately?
Yeah, during training season it did a couple of times. Nothing got hurt or killed or anything, but went into a couple of bear trees and there was wolves at the tree.
Is that a concern every time you run in the UP these days?
Yep, every time we go out, every time we let a dog go, it's a possibility, and it's very concerning to all of us. I mean, it's a shame. I mean, it's sad. It really is. It's a bad deal for sure.
Well, you guys, I would think you know where these packs are. Why don't you just stay away from them?
Yeah, I mean, we try. In the wintertime, it's a little easier to figure out where they're at. Obviously you got snow, but and if we're finding a bunch of tracks in a place, we won't hunt there. But in the summertime, it's tough because you don't see their tracks. All our roads are gravel, and it's tough to tell where they are.
Yeah. So when is your cat hunting season?
Season starts the first of the year and runs till the 1st of March. 1st
of March. Okay, so it's coming up now. That's why you haven't been out much.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you can still run right now, just training and stuff if you want.
And is it a multiple cat, or is it only one cat a year?
In the UP, you can kill 2, or you can kill 1 downstate and 1 up here. And one's got to be on private ground and one's on public.
Yeah, but from talking with you in the past, at least when you guys are running bears, you guys let an awful lot more of them go than you actually take, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We don't. We won't kill anything unless it's 30 pounds or bigger for cats. And yeah, I mean, we let a lot. we let a lot more go than we kill. That's for sure.
So you're cruising these two tracks, these back roads, first thing in the morning. You're looking for a track,
Yep.
And then when you find one that looks good, how many dogs are you letting out?
It all depends on the day. I mean, if we're really trying to catch one and kill one or something, we'll probably only put a couple of the better dogs on it. But if it's just me and Justin out, hunting together for fun, we'll throw a couple of pups in there with them, just to get them dogs going too. So it just all depends on the day.
Now, when you let pups out there, I can see why you're doing this, right? Because they're going to learn from the old dogs. They're going to learn from the Bobcats themselves. But you're also opening yourselves up to a lot of fun just watching these young guys and gals trying to figure out what's going on.
Yep. Yeah. That's pretty much why everybody's in this sport. I'd hope is to train the dogs and see them from a puppy to when they're 3-4 years old, finished out. I mean, that's why I'm in it. To watch these dogs progress and see what I can make out of them.
And again, how much of it is what you're doing, and how much of it is just the genes of the dog?
Yeah, I mean, it's all we're doing. We're just the track finders. I mean, that's all we are: bear hunting, cat hunting, coyote hunting. I mean, we're pretty much just track finders. We just find the animal that we want to chase and put the dog on it. And I mean, there's a lot. I shouldn't say it like that. There's a lot more to it, but you know what I mean. In reality, we just if it's a good dog and they got it, then they'll go and they'll learn. And some do have it, some don't have it. But yeah, it's all in their head for sure. So
all right. So you find this track first thing in the morning. You let a couple dogs go. How do cats react when they know they got dogs behind them, as opposed to say coyotes or bears?
They're tricky. They're the trickiest animal in the woods, I swear. They'll jump up on logs. They love blowdowns or real thick stuff. So they'll get in there and they'll jump up on logs and run them, and they'll do figure eights, and they'll twist and turn and try to get away from the dogs or elude the dogs or mess them up, and they love the ice. They jump on the ice if there's a river nearby or something, and they'll run down that. And, they're definitely tricky.
I thought cats didn't like water.
No, they like ice. I don't know if they like water, but they like ice.
So will they, I think, I hear these stories of people hunting mountain lions out west. I mean, the cat almost always trees. Does a bobcat do the same thing?
No, not in my opinion, I guess. I mean, if you get deep snow, I think they're more likely to tree, just because they don't have a real big lung capacity, kind of like a mountain lion, so they can't run real far. But
yeah,
and it all depends on on the dog that's running it. If you got a good dog that doesn't make any losses, or that's just a good steady dog that stays right on that cat, then it's a lot more apt to tree. But or if you got really bad snow or something, the scenting condition isn't good, and that cat can get out a little further in front of the dogs, and he knows that cat knows that, and he just keep running and doing little tricks and to get that dog further and further behind. But sometimes they tree, and most of the time though, they're usually caught on the ground.
So what are your ideal conditions? What type of weather do you like?
I like about 6-8 inches of snow, good fresh snow, maybe with a good base to it, good fresh snow from the night before or whatever, and probably 18 to 25 degrees is about perfect, I think.
And let them go.
Yep, let them go.
I was thinking about, running cats, big cats, mountain lions out west. Is that something you guys would ever consider? Could you take your Michigan coyote, bobcat, bear dogs out there, and would they run mountain lions?
Yeah, I went out there a couple years ago, and my brother went out a couple years before that. So we've been out there and done that. I killed one out there, and then when Justin went out there, they treed one and killed one out there. And yeah, it can definitely be done. A lot of guys do it.
I would think there'd be a whole different ball game out there, though. Big country, big animals, a lot of covering more ground, or not really.
Yeah, like I say, I've only treated a couple of them, but they They do. They travel a long ways, and I think the toughest part of a mountain lion is trailing. Getting it on its feet and running. And after that, like I say, they don't have very big lungs, and they don't run very far usually, in my opinion, or in my experience, I guess. And then they usually tree. But the biggest thing is just being able to cold trail that dog or that cat.
Well, I'm thinking there in the UP where you like it's big snow. It's at least it can be rough country. I mean, you're earning these critters by the time you get back in there on them.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, usually it's an all-day event, and you're on snowmobiles and snowshoes, and it's cold, and you're sweaty and wet by the end of the day, and snow falling down your back, and it can be grueling.
How many cats would you guys run in an average winter?
Oh, it all depends on, how our snow condition is and what our work schedules are like. I don't know. It really all depends. I think last year we killed 5 or 6 maybe, and I don't know. We run a bunch more, caught a couple more, but just it all depends,
Yeah, I get that. On Mother Nature and work schedules, I get that completely. How was your bear season, Jordan?
Good. It was a good year. We had we got some nice bears and found quite a few, and it was a real good year. A lot of fun.
Are you guys deer hunters too, or you take that season off?
We deer hunt a little bit. My brother deer hunts a little more than I do. I do just to pass the time, I guess, between bear season and cat season.
Usually I'm catching up that time of year from all the stuff I let go from bear season. So
Yeah. I was talking with Cody Norton of the DNR in the first hour this week, and he was talking about the bear population. I said, any chance we'll ever have a spring hunt here in Michigan? He said, don't look for it. Don't look for it.
Yeah.
But the bear population's good. You say the cat population's strong. And, man, if you guys wanted to get back into coyotes, they're all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Yep, they are. They're definitely set.
Jordan, I always enjoy our conversations. I think what you and your brother Justin and all the houndsmen here in the state are doing is pretty cool. There's a lot of tradition to it, and I think oftentimes it's misunderstood. So I appreciate your insight.
Yep, thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for sharing our passion.
Always a pleasure, Jordan. We'll talk again soon. Good luck this season.
All right. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Jordan Farmer, and he mentioned his brother Justin. These guys are very well-known houndsmen. And I think I first ran into these guys. It may have been, my first conversation may have been a result of one of their run-ins with wolves in the UP, and they lost a dog, if I remember right. And kind of once I made the connection with the guys, I love to check in with them and get some input into this whole concept of houndsmen, because, I don't know, I think if it's a legal method of hunting, like running hounds is, that we as hunters need to accept and support all legal methods of hunting. Even if you choose not to participate in it, fine. But if it's out there and it's legal and there are people who do it with a passion and it's not hurting the resource, then I think it's up to us fellow hunters to accept and encourage. And in my case, give it exposure and talk about it right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us just up the road in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. And we can jump over to the other side of the state. You can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM 790 AM 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. Although for this 3 hours, this corner of the building, I call it the Outdoor Magazine studio, and so far they're letting me get away with it. I'm here with Charlie Rood, who is doing a wonderful job as always. And as I look out the window, I can see through the lobby into the parking lot, and there are, even on this holiday week, there are cars and people and signs, and they're chanting and cheering, and they're encouraging Charlie to keep up the good work. And they're just waiting for him to leave the studio so they can get a look at him, maybe an autograph, maybe a picture. That's the kind of quality talent that I work with. Speaking of quality, this segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. From plumbing, heating, air conditioning, sump pumps, ductwork cleaning, you name it. Anything to keep you warm and dry and comfortable in your home. The folks at Wilds can take care of it because their slogan is whatever it takes. I love to work with companies who have that mindset. What do you need us to do? Whatever it takes. That's what the folks at Wilds, that's how they approach their job. In fact, I had a guy from Wilds at the house this last week. He was here doing a furnace tune-up or inspection. It was supposed to be a preheating inspection, but I dragged my feet and got him over here during the heating season. But they did a great job. They inspected we've got 2 different heating systems. They checked them both out. And again, they've done a wonderful job for me, as they will for you. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. I always enjoy my conversations with the houndsmen, whether it's Vance Gowell or Jordan Farmer or Justin Farmer or whoever I happen to have on. I'm fascinated by it. It's not something I do only because, as I was saying earlier in the show, there's so many outdoor opportunities around the state. You kind of got to pick and choose. You can't do them all, right? But I think those guys have gotten a bad rap. And it's like any group, right? If you get enough people, you're going to have some bad people in there, some bad actors, some bad apples, and they're going to give that whole group a bad name. And that's happened with the houndsmen in some places, in some parts of the state, in some circles. But I support them. It's legal if they're doing it in a legal manner and they're not hurting the resource. And I'm assuming that if it's during a state-mandated season that they're not hurting the resource, then God bless them. And so I'll support them all the way. Again, Merry Christmas to you, or Happy New Year, kind of depending on when you are listening to the show, whether it's the broadcast version of the show or the podcast. As we get into the new year, I am thinking about some things that I want to get done, some things that I want to... I don't make New Year's resolutions because I think New Year's resolutions are made to be broken. These are more of New Year's goals to me. Here are some of them that I have put in my mind. I want to spend more time outdoors. In 2022, I want to spend more time outdoors. That's a simple, basic, straightforward one. Whether it's hunting or fishing or scouting or whatever, I'm not talking about more time outdoors mowing the lawn or anything like that. No, more time outdoors pursuing these outdoor passions. I really want to kill a Michigan bear. I have not done that yet. I've taken a lot of bears. I've taken them, Ontario, Manitoba, Quebec, maybe that's it. But I haven't taken a Michigan bear yet. And I will likely get a third season Newberry tag this year. I'll be hunting with Johnny Bowler, and I'd really like to take a Michigan bear. I won't be hampering myself this year as much as I did previous hunts with a recurve. I'll have my crossbow in my hand, so that'll help out. Also, I want to be a little more open in my fishing pursuits. I'm thinking particularly in my home body of water of Saginaw Bay on the Angler Quest this summer. I tend to get involved, like I love skinny water, and I troll good old-fashioned Hottentots or number 7 flicker shads or maybe some lead core and some spoons. But I want to try some different things. I want to work some different areas over to get into some different water, some different depths, some different tactics, some different techniques, and maybe broaden my experience there. From a business perspective, I want to revisit this concept of why do we have rod restrictions for Great Lakes trolling anglers. I think it's an unnecessary, crazy law. If a resource is protected by the creel limit and the size limit, what does it matter how many rods you run to get to that limit? So I've been kind of quiet about that for the last year. I'm gonna open my big mouth on that one and get a little bit more vocal about it. And finally, I just want to continue to grow and improve and try to try to make this outdoor magazine franchise, this Mike Avery Outdoors, whatever it is, reach as many people as possible and continue to put the word out there that what we're doing there, this hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, is good. It's biologically sound. It's biologically necessary. It's legal. It's ordained by God, and it's just plain fun. And I want to continue to encourage people to get outside, to get away from the screens. I love technology as much as anybody, but you got to take a break from it. You got to get out and enjoy the real world. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for 2020. Oh, that and keep the weight off. I lost a whole bunch of weight. Now the challenge is to keep it off. So all those and more in 2022. We'll take a break. When we come back, Wild Game Chef Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name's Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. I encourage you to check out the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And you can always reach me via email. The email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can use that email address with comments, concerns, questions, complaints, questions for the Ask Avery segment. Yeah, do not hesitate. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can also find me on social media, on primarily Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, but other places as well. If you've heard the show before, you know that I love to wrap up each week's program with Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dave Minar, and this week is no exception as David joins us once again. Welcome back, Dave. How you doing?
I'm very good, Mike. Well, you're sounding loud and clear today.
Yeah, you're sounding good on your end, too, from up there in the North Country.
Yep. No snow, though.
Yeah, it's a time of year where we don't know if we're going to have ice or open water. We don't know if we're going to have snow or not. That is, downstate here. Up in the north, they're pretty well assured of such things. But it doesn't hinder our ability to enjoy fishing wild game on the table. That's for sure.
That's true. Boy, it's pretty sad about that flock of elk that drowned, wasn't it?
But the way I look at it, if they're that stupid, then maybe we need to get them out of the gene pool. And people are going to get real mad at me about that. But honest to goodness, if you're a wild animal and you can't figure out that the ice is so thin you shouldn't be walking on it, Now here comes, and so use the mic at MikeAveryOutdoors.com to complain about that, because I know I'm going to hear about it. Let's move on to something else. How about a recipe?
I apologize, Mike.
That's all right. I did it to myself.
I got an Italian-style venison steak, and it's really hearty, and for this time of the year, it's a nice comfort food. So you can need about 8 to 10 ounces of venison steak per person. If you're going to use the lesser cuts other than the loin or the tenderloin or some of the leg steaks, this is a dish you could actually simmer for a long time, and make it nice and tender. So you're going to need about anywhere from 4 to 6 cloves of garlic, sliced thin or chopped fine. And this is going to be for about 4 portions of the 8 to 10 ounce steaks per person. And you need a package, 12 ounces of fresh mushrooms sliced thin, about a tablespoon, more or less to your flavor, of capers. Italian people love capers too, and I really like them. So 1 medium onion sliced very thin, a green pepper sliced thin, and if you like, you could use red and yellow also. That would make this dish stand right out. So I would use anchovy fillets chopped up real fine, or you can buy already ground in a tube anchovy. A lot of Italian food has it in it. You might not even know it. It just is a flavor booster for sure. About a half a teaspoon each of basil and oregano. Or if you have Italian spice, you could put in 1 teaspoon of that. 1 to 1.5 large cans of whole diced California tomatoes, or if you buy the whole ones, just hand crush them up so they're not in its whole form. About 2 to 3 ounces of Marsala sweet wine, about a half a cup of black olive sliced. If you use salt in your diet, put a little bit of salt and fresh grated pepper all over the meat before you dredge it in flour and a little bit of olive oil. So you're going to take the pounded out steaks between saran wrap, grate pepper all over them, and then dredge it in flour. And then you're going to add a small amount of olive oil and brown meat on both sides. If you're going to use the tender steaks, you're going to take this out after you do this. Put them on the side. Now, to make our sauce, you're going to take a nice heavy saucepan, a little bit of olive oil. When it's nice and hot, add the garlic, the mushrooms, the onion, olives, green, yellow, red pepper, whatever you're going to use. Stir it, constantly stir it so that it's not going to burn, because some of this stuff has a tendency to get dark real quick. When the onions are transparent, then you can add the wine, spices, and if you're going to use anchovies and capers, by all means, this is the time to do it. If you're going to bake this dish, you're going to add the chopped tomatoes, now pretty much a lot of the juice, and cook it, get it real nice, fast, hot, over a high heat. And if this is going to be one you're going to eat it rare, cook it down fast. Set it aside. Put the steaks back in the pan, get it up to a nice boil again, and then serve it. This is the lesser cuts of meat. You're going to bake at 350 degrees for at least an hour to an hour and a half. You want to leave it uncovered, 350 degree oven. That's going to reduce down, and the flavor will be more concentrated. So you can do it fast over the burner when you're going to do it rarish or medium rarish, or if you're going to cook it to well done and simmer it for a while, then just put the sauce back in it, boom, throw it in the oven and enjoy later. We've sold this at the restaurant for years. People just love it.
I bet you're encouraging people not to eat it well done to go to the rare side, though, right?
Well, it's up to them. If they're going to use the lesser cuts of meat that are more, say, tough and not as tender, this is a dish you can throw in the oven, let it go for an hour, hour and a half, and enjoy it that way. If it's like loin steaks or something that's going to be nice and tender, do it fast, and then eat it more on the rare side, not the well-done side. But either way, it would work for depending on which meat you're going to be using, which cuts.
Gotcha. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. Thanks for listening. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And the email address, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, to give me grief about a comment I may or may not have made earlier in this segment. Have a good week. I hope you get a chance to get outdoors during all the holiday celebration, and I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.